Hi, mysterious Scorpio, and welcome to Eternal Mindfulness. Let me ask you something. What if everything you've endured for the past 15 years wasn't random pain, but sacred preparation? What if April 3rd, 2025, isn't just a date, but a portal? A turning point written in the stars, specifically for you? You didn't land on this video by chance. The energy that pulled you here is intentional. Divine. Scorpio energy is deeply magnetic, and when your soul is ready, the universe starts to whisper. What you're feeling now isn't confusion. It's alignment taking shape. This is not just an astrology reading. It's a soul transmission. A message encoded in the stars, and today, we decode it together. The cosmos has been holding space for you, Scorpio. Quietly. Faithfully. Watching as you transformed in the dark. Watching as you let go of versions of yourself that were too small, too afraid, too tired to carry the fire you hold. But that era is done. You've paid your karmic dues. You've walked through the underworld and back. Now, it's time for your rise. You see, April 3rd isn't just another day on the calendar. Astrologically, it marks the close of a heavy 15-year karmic cycle, and the beginning of something electrifying, your rise era. A moment where everything that was once locked away, your power, your voice, your truth, begins to surface. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need to chase anything anymore. You become the thing that's being chased. So let me take a moment to say this from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for being here. Every like, every comment, every share, every single subscription helps this community grow. But more than that, it brings you closer to this tribe of seekers, light workers, and cosmic warriors. You are not just supporting this channel, you're helping to build a sanctuary for awakened minds. And trust me when I say this, dear Scorpio. You'll want to stay with me until the very last second of this video. Because what the universe is preparing to reveal is nothing short of breathtaking. Before we begin, I want to ask you something. What called you here today? Was it a dream? A feeling you couldn't explain? A pattern you can't ignore anymore? Leave a comment below and let me know. This is how we activate your energy, by claiming it. What's about to unfold is not just a forecast. It's a mirror. A map. A sacred invitation to reclaim the parts of yourself that have been waiting, patiently, to be seen. So take a deep breath, and let's begin. Because today, we enter the deepest layers of Scorpio, where your light is born from your shadows, and your power finally remembers who it is. There's a subtle shift that begins to unfold the moment Mercury forms a harmonious trine with the Sun in Scorpio. It's not loud, not even obvious at first glance. But if you pay attention, you'll notice the mind and spirit beginning to move in sync. This alignment offers you the rare clarity of seeing not just what's in front of you, but what lies underneath it. It's the moment when your thoughts don't just interpret, they reveal. When your intuition isn't something you reach for, but something that rises naturally, like breath. You're not analyzing life anymore, you're feeling your way through it with a quiet certainty that doesn't need validation. And then there's Pluto, your ruling planet, now in motion, nudging at the very core of who you believe yourself to be. This is not a surface-level shakeup. It's a silent reordering of the unseen architecture of your beliefs, the inherited stories, the quiet agreements you made with life long ago, some before you even knew how to speak. Now, under this cosmic influence, you are offered the space to examine them, not with judgment, but with presence. What have you clung to because it once made you feel safe, but now feels too small for who you're becoming? This is the kind of transformation that doesn't shout its arrival. It's the slow, steady disintegration of the walls that once protected you, now revealing the sky beyond. As the moon casts its light into the realm of dreams, it becomes a translator of the unconscious. Your inner world begins to whisper in symbols, patterns, fleeting feelings that say more than words ever could. If you've had strange dreams lately, or sudden waves of emotion without an obvious trigger, consider that your deeper self is trying to speak. These aren't distractions. They're invitations. The kind that only Scorpio, with your depth and courage, knows how to answer. The moon, in this role, becomes a gentle guide, helping you bring what's hidden into the light, not to expose, but to understand, to accept, and eventually, to release. When you pair all of this with the archetypes of the tarot, particularly the moon and death, the message deepens even further. The moon card reminds us that truth is rarely linear. It asks us to navigate by intuition, by emotional resonance, not logic alone. It calls us to walk through the fog and trust that not every step must be clear before we take it. And then, death, often misunderstood, comes not to take, but to free. It signals the ending of something that no longer holds life, so that something more aligned can rise. It is the composting of what's complete. The invitation to step out of old skins without fear. Taken together, this moment is an offering, to witness yourself with gentleness, to honor your becoming without needing it to make sense to others. The mind, the heart, and the soul are speaking in harmony now, not to demand action, but to inspire alignment. Much like the way the river carves its way through rock, not with force, but with constancy and truth, this is your path forward. There is no need to rush. No need to prove. There is only the need to notice. When you begin to live from this kind of awareness, not as a performance, but as your quiet reality, you tap into the deepest form of wisdom. The kind that doesn't need to be taught, because it has always been within you. Like still water reflecting the moon, your inner clarity comes when the surface stops trying to control the light. Let go, and the message becomes clear. You were never meant to force your way through transformation. You were meant to allow it. Let this day be a mirror. Let it be a prayer. Let it be the moment you stop running toward your power, and simply begin to remember it. And just like that, as we settle deeper into this moment, the conversation begins to shift, gently, but unmistakably, toward the matters of the heart. After the inner awareness brought by the planetary alignments, there comes a natural desire to connect, to be seen, and more importantly, to feel seen without having to perform or explain. This is where love enters, not as a dramatic entrance, but as a quiet presence, mirroring who you are becoming now that your energy is more aligned. What's remarkable about the energy surrounding you today is how softly magnetic you've become. Especially for those who are single, there's a shift that's hard to describe but easy to sense. You are no longer trying to be interesting. You are simply being. And it's this quiet authenticity, the absence of effort, that draws people in. Like a still lake that reflects the moonlight perfectly, your stillness invites curiosity. This is the paradox of attraction. When you stop reaching outward, love begins to reach for you. There's a principle at work here, one that says desire, when rooted in grasping, creates resistance. But when rooted in self-knowing, it creates flow. When you're no longer chasing something to complete you, the universe recognizes your wholeness and sends reflections of it into your life. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about becoming so at peace with who you are that your presence alone becomes a sanctuary. The Lover's card, paired with the Queen of Cups in the tarot, captures this beautifully. The Lovers isn't only about romance, it's about choice. The sacred act of choosing connection from a place of integrity, rather than need. And the Queen of Cups? She feels deeply but never loses her center. She teaches us that emotional depth doesn't have to drown us. It can be a compass, guiding us to connections that feel like home rather than drama. For those in relationships, this energy invites a different kind of tenderness. Not the kind you give when everything's going well, but the kind that's offered even when things feel confusing or raw. There may be misunderstandings right now, not because something is broken, but because deeper truths are surfacing. When both partners can pause and truly listen, not to respond, but to understand, something softens. And that softness becomes a bridge. In moments like these, control becomes the biggest barrier to love. The need to be right, to win the argument, to prove a point, all of it stands in the way of what your heart actually craves: safety, closeness, honesty. The deeper work now isn't to fix your partner or even the relationship. It's to dissolve the part of you that believes love must be earned by sacrificing your truth or hiding your needs. There's also something quietly transformative about emotional honesty, not the dramatic, performative kind, but the kind that comes from sitting with your feelings long enough to hear what they're really trying to say. One gentle self-healing practice that can help is writing a letter, one you never intend to send, to someone who once caused you pain. Let the words spill without filter. Not to accuse, but to release. Sometimes, what keeps us from opening to love isn't the absence of another person. It's the energy we still carry from the last time our heart closed. Here, patience becomes your greatest ally. Love doesn't bloom on demand. It arrives when there's space for it. Just as a flower only opens in the presence of light, connection deepens in the presence of presence. Being truly here, for yourself, for the other, is often the most romantic thing you can offer. And so, the path of love, when walked with awareness, becomes more than just a path toward another. It becomes a mirror of your own growth. In every encounter, every silence, every hand you hold or let go of, life is simply asking, can you remain open? Can you keep listening? Can you love, without losing yourself? Sometimes the questions that matter most arrive quietly. After all the reflection in your inner world and emotional landscape, there's now a shift in focus, from feeling to doing, from insight to action. And yet, even in the realm of career and purpose, the most important movements begin not in the external world, but in the stillness within. When Saturn moves through Pisces, it challenges us to dissolve outdated definitions of success and reimagine what it truly means to live with purpose. There's a soft dismantling happening here, a quiet invitation to stop measuring your worth by how well you fit into systems that were never built for your spirit in the first place. You may find yourself asking deeper questions now. ones that can't be answered by logic or ambition alone. Questions like, am I building something that reflects my truth? Or am I simply playing a role that was handed to me? These are not comfortable questions, but they are necessary ones, because purpose is not a destination, it's a living practice. And just like breath, it must be returned to again and again, especially when the world becomes loud. The Magician and the Eight of Pentacles arrive as subtle affirmations in the tarot. The Magician reminds you that everything you need, you already carry: skills, ideas, intuition, discipline. You are not lacking in capacity. What's required now is conscious direction. The Eight of Pentacles speaks to mastery, but not the kind that comes from perfection. It's the mastery that comes from devotion. Showing up. Choosing your craft even when no one's watching, even when the outcome is uncertain. These cards together don't push you towards sudden risk, they whisper of alignment through action. The magic isn't in the leap. It's in the consistency. From a numerological lens, the date, April 3rd, reduces to the number 7. This number, often misunderstood as solitary, is actually about sacred inquiry. It asks for depth over speed, wisdom over reaction. In this light, your work becomes more than just a task, it becomes a reflection of your consciousness. When you move from this place of quiet knowing, even the smallest actions carry transformative energy. You begin to build not for recognition, but for resonance. Not for applause, but for fulfillment. In contemplative traditions, there's a teaching that suggests the right action arises not from striving, but from clear seeing. When the mind is not clouded by desire or fear, what needs to be done reveals itself, not as an obligation, but as a natural extension of who you are. So if you've been feeling stuck or uncertain in your path, consider that it may not be about changing directions, but about returning to the part of you that remembers why you chose this path in the first place. A simple practice can help bring clarity. Write down 3 things you do with ease, the kinds of tasks that feel like second nature. Then, write 3 things that make you lose track of time, the kind of work that leaves you more energized than drained. Somewhere in the overlap lies your soul's vocation. It might not be tied to a job title or paycheck just yet, but it is the compass that points you toward what's real. There's no rush. No one to impress. The unfolding of your purpose doesn't follow a timeline, it follows your attention. The more gently you listen, the more clearly it speaks. And eventually, you'll see that success isn't something you have to chase. It's something you align with, through intention, integrity, and the quiet decision to build something that truly belongs to you. What often gets overlooked in conversations about money is that it doesn't begin with numbers. It begins with a feeling, a subtle shift in the way we perceive our own worth. After exploring purpose and the work that calls to your soul, it's only natural to ask, how does this translate into the material world? How do we reconcile the need to survive with the desire to thrive? Especially for someone with Scorpio's depth, finances are rarely just about currency. They are about energetic integrity, the exchange of value, trust, and personal power. As Venus enters Taurus, a sign rooted in sensual stability and grounded abundance, the energy becomes ripe for reconnecting with a healthier financial rhythm. But the real opportunity lies not in suddenly acquiring more, but in tuning into the energy that's already available to you, and examining the beliefs that shape the way you receive it. Money flows where it feels welcomed, not chased. And it resists those who unknowingly carry resistance in the form of fear, guilt, or shame around their right to receive. The law of attraction reminds us that wealth is not attracted to desperation. It's magnetized by certainty, by the quiet confidence of someone who knows they are enough, who trusts the timing of their own path. When you believe you are worthy of support, opportunities, and overflow, the world begins to reflect that back to you. This is not about magical thinking. It's about alignment. About showing up every day with the energy of someone who's already living in gratitude, not waiting to get there first. The Ace of Pentacles in the Tarot is a symbol of new beginnings in the material realm, seeds of prosperity being planted, often through unexpected means. It may be an idea you almost gave up on, a connection from the past that resurfaces with potential, or a sudden insight that opens a new pathway. But this gift, like all true abundance, is neutral until you say yes to it. And saying yes often requires saying no to what no longer serves, the habits, contracts, or roles that drain more than they give. That's where the Nine of Pentacles comes in, a card that speaks to self-sufficiency, refinement, and the quiet joy of building a life that feels luxurious, not because it's flashy, but because it's true to you. Sometimes, the most powerful financial transformation doesn't come from earning more, but from seeing differently. There's a practice that can support this shift. Each morning, take a moment to hold a single bill. It doesn't matter the amount. Feel its texture, its presence, its weight. Then, with sincerity, say, I thank the flow of financial energy that is finding me from every direction. Let this become a ritual, not to summon money, but to awaken the part of you that already trusts it's on the way. Another gentle reframe is to bless every expense, especially the ones that feel tight. Instead of seeing payment as loss, view it as contribution. A chance to say, thank you, to the electricity that kept your home warm, the food that nourished your body, the lessons that came through discomfort. This gratitude doesn't erase the need for wise choices, but it softens the inner struggle, replacing scarcity with stewardship. You don't have to hustle to prove your worth. Your worth is not on the line. What's required is presence, discernment, and the willingness to receive, not just money, but the deeper sense of peace that comes when your inner and outer lives begin to reflect each other. True abundance is not how much you hold. It's how freely you let life flow through you. What begins as a quiet pull inward often holds the deepest wisdom. After walking through the landscapes of love, purpose, and value, it's only natural to find yourself arriving at the threshold of your inner world, the place where meaning is made, not found. This isn't about escape or detachment. It's about refinement. About learning how to distinguish between the noise of expectation and the stillness of truth. When the moon forms a square with Pluto, it doesn't ask you to fix anything. It simply illuminates what's been buried, the unresolved, the unspoken, the parts of you you've learned to silence just to make things easier for others. This kind of transit is rarely comfortable. But it is sacred in its own way. Because healing doesn't always begin with light. Sometimes it starts with the courage to sit with the dark and not flinch. Not because you're trying to fight it, but because you're ready to see it clearly. Shadows only grow when ignored. But when you meet them with gentle attention, something remarkable happens, they soften. And in that softening, clarity arises. You realize that the part of you that once reacted in fear is now asking to be held in understanding. The Hermit and Judgment cards in Tarot carry a similar frequency. The Hermit doesn't isolate to avoid life, he retreats to reconnect with it. He steps back not to disappear, but to remember. To realign. Judgment, on the other hand, is not about punishment. It's about awakening. It's that quiet inner bell that rings when something within you says, enough. It's time. Together, these cards remind us that silence isn't emptiness. It's preparation. It's where the next version of you gathers her strength. There's a teaching that says we don't awaken through answers, but through awareness. And awareness begins with stillness, the kind that doesn't need to be productive, impressive, or even understood by others. Just honest. That's why a simple practice like 7 minutes of mindful breathing before bed can feel like medicine. It's not about erasing thoughts or forcing peace. It's about coming home. Placing your hand on your chest and reminding your nervous system, I am safe to return to myself. In a world that constantly pulls us outward, this is an act of power. Writing can serve as another kind of mirror. A space to observe rather than analyze. By journaling with the simple prompt, "Today I feel," you begin to release energy from the mind and let it move through the body, onto the page. No need to edit. No need to make it sound wise. The point isn't perfection, it's permission. To feel what you feel without censoring it. To witness yourself in real time, and allow that witnessing to become the beginning of healing. None of this requires grand gestures. What it asks for is presence. Attention. The willingness to slow down enough to hear the truth beneath the noise. Sometimes we think we need to change our whole lives to find peace. But often, peace is already waiting, not at the end of some achievement, but in the space we've forgotten to honor. The breath. The moment. The self that exists underneath all the roles and labels. When you give yourself even a few minutes a day to return inward, you begin to notice that the world doesn't feel quite as heavy. Not because it changed, but because you did. You remembered that your center was never lost. Just quiet. And now, it's beginning to speak again. And now, as we arrive at the closing breath of this journey together, let's take a moment to pause, not to end, but to integrate. Because everything you've heard today wasn't just meant to inspire, it was meant to awaken. Through the lens of love, career, abundance, and your inner world, you've been receiving messages that all point to one powerful truth. You are not here to repeat your past, you are here to choose your present. And the beauty of this very moment, Scorpio, is that you finally can. Think back to what stirred something in you today. Was it the quiet recognition that your worth no longer needs to be proven? Was it the realization that your desires are valid, not because someone else approves, but because they are sacred expressions of your soul? Or maybe it was the reminder that your shadows aren't signs of failure, but doorways to deeper clarity. Whatever it was, hold it close. Let it guide you into what comes next, not with pressure, but with presence. You don't have to change your whole life overnight. In fact, you don't have to become anything more than what you already are. This new chapter is not about striving harder, it's about remembering who you've always been before the world told you to shrink. You are not broken. You are unfolding. And every breath you take with intention, Every choice you make with awareness becomes a vote for the future you're ready to live. So as you move forward from here, I invite you to carry 3 simple, powerful practices into your everyday life. First, each morning, before the world reaches for you, speak the affirmation, "I do not seek power, I am the source of power." Let your nervous system hear that until it believes it. Second, keep a quiet note, either on paper or in your phone, of 3 things you said no to today. Because boundaries aren't about rejection, they're about devotion to your energy. And third, allow yourself to dress in color, red, orange, gold, not as a fashion statement, but as a vibrational reminder of who you are stepping into. Let your aura dress before your body does. Transformation doesn't happen in the big moments. It lives in the choices you repeat when no one's watching. So I ask you this: what are you willing to release so that space can be made for what's real? Who would you be if you stopped living from your history and started acting from your vision? And more importantly, are you willing to trust that you're worthy of what's waiting? If something within you is whispering yes, even softly, write it in the comments. Let this be your declaration. I am now living from my true self. Let's anchor this shift together. Let it be witnessed. Let it be real. And before we part ways for now, I want to thank you, truly, for sharing your energy, your time, and your presence with me today. Every view, every like, every comment, every subscription is not just support for this channel. It's a signal to the universe that you are ready to walk this path with awareness. Your support fuels this space and allows eternal mindfulness to keep showing up for souls like yours at the exact right time. So if you haven't already, please hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so we can continue to walk this path of transformation together. And if this video has touched you, even in the smallest way, consider sharing it with someone you love. Sometimes the right words arrive just when someone needs them most. Remember this: you are not here to wait for the light. You are the light. And today, you have everything it takes to step into the life that was always meant for you, one breath, one truth, one choice at a time. Until next time, stay grounded, stay open, and above all, stay true.